Unconscious bias, it affects us all. Recent studies show that everyday decisions, like what food to buy and who to ask for help, through to choosing who should be in your company, are all influenced by unconscious bias. It's been shown that when making important decisions about people at work, managers didn't believe they were biased, even when the evidence showed otherwise. For example, recent American studies revealed that when resumes had non-white sounding names, such as Jamal or Letitia, they were less likely to be called for an interview than if their names were James or Elizabeth, even though the resumes were identical. The other thing about bias is it doesn't discriminate. We all do it. We all perceive society through our own individual lens, based on our race, gender, sexuality, geography, socioeconomic status, religion, and so on. Our exposure to the world around us provides us with information about what is safe and what is a threat. As humans, we have a desire to belong, to be part of an in-group. We seek to quickly identify who's part of our in-group and who's in the out-group. It helps us to create emotional order and comfort. That's the root of social bias, and we all have it, an unconscious preference for one over another. So what's going on? Well, the unconscious mind is phenomenal. It works 200,000 times faster than our conscious mind. Despite our belief that we're rational creatures, the fact is we're mostly unconscious in our thinking, and that's why it's possible to be biased without even being aware. Try this. Which of these two tables is longer? The reality is they're both the same, but our unconscious mind attempts to make sense of an abstract situation by drawing upon our rules of space and distance. It would be difficult to walk down a crowded city street without these unconscious biases protecting us. As noted Nobel Prize-winning researcher Daniel Kahneman discusses in his popular book, Thinking Fast and Slow, our brains have two main decision centres. The fast brain, which rapidly responds within milliseconds to a given stimulus, and secondly, the slow brain, which is rational, calculating, and conscious. The fast brain is the protective part of our brain. When we're under pressure or when we perceive a threat, our fast brain kicks in and acts like an emotional switch. It takes over and drives our responses to situations with unconscious speed, reverting to the habitual thought processes we've been learning since birth. Well, this is very useful in survival situations, but less useful when we're under pressure in a work environment, especially if we're dealing with people and change. By repeatedly relying on our unconscious shortcuts, we can miss key information. Stereotype categorization is an example of this. When we meet someone new, we unconsciously draw on stereotypes to give us a sense of understanding and calm. This means we underestimate those of underprivileged categories and overestimate those of privileged categories, and we do it without even realising. Doing this is a bit like reading an old map that doesn't show the new highway. When we want to get somewhere fast, we often take the familiar route rather than face the unknown. After all, it takes less mental effort to go down a route we already know. But is this the best way? Our unconscious biases will give us a feeling of, yes, we're right, even when we're not. So often in a losing battle between our fast, instinctive brain and the more rational, analytical, slow brain. We'd like to think we're objective in our hiring decisions, in evaluating performances or dealing with new situations in the workplace. The reality is, without our awareness, our fast brain has already tried to protect us by making decisions that are tied to our perceived experiences of the past. So it's vital for us to consciously pause and consider the best response and whether there's a more effective option. The good news is our brain is not a static object, but a growing and changing organ. Like roads and highways, it's possible for us to create new neural pathways and lay down new habits that reduce the negative impact of our biases. To do this, first we have to be aware we have biases and understand what triggers them. We then need to understand the impact that bias has on our decisions. From there, we can look at what we can do to mitigate that bias and choose a more appropriate response. By slowing down and working with others, we can create new shortcuts and better ways of functioning together. At the heart of MasterCard are our values of trust, partnership, agility, and initiative. For our organisation to be successful and deliver on our vision of a world beyond cash, we'll need to explore the unconscious bias that resides in each of us. The key is the creation of an inclusive work environment that enables all of us to innovate and contribute our best talents and thereby do good for us and those around us. Through appropriate mitigation strategies, we'll be able to bring these values to life in all the interactions with our people, customers, partners, and the community.